I just have to say it. I've been holding this back for way too long. I'm really disappointed by Grindelwald. Hey guys, so Fantastic Beasts as a series is really based around Gellert Grindelwald, and the entire series is heading to a culmination where Dumbledore is going to have to take him down. Grindelwald has basically replaced Voldemort as the new baddie, and he's the main baddie for the entire series. But to be honest, he's not really what I'd hoped for, and he's basically just been disappointing me. What do I mean? Let me explain. So I'll admit, when I first found out that Gellert Grindelwald was going to be the primary antagonist in the Fantastic Beasts series, I was actually really excited. For one, the books keep talking about how the battle between Grindelwald and Dumbledore was supposed to be spectacular and an amazing thing to see, and the fact that this meant that this battle would inevitably be coming to film made this really exciting. But much bigger than that, Gellert Grindelwald offers a counterpart to the character of Dumbledore. See, in the entire Harry Potter series, Voldemort always acts as a counterpart to Harry. Harry is pure of heart, and Voldemort's soul is extremely corrupted. Voldemort was raised without love and has no friends and no experience in love in his entire life. Meanwhile, Harry gets a lot of his power from love, and love is actually what protects him for most of the series. And while in terms of power level, Voldemort and Dumbledore were actually closer to in power, the series is constantly about the balance between Voldemort and Harry. Even the fact that Voldemort is so powerful and Harry is just a regular student is part of their balance. And this is what really got me excited about Grindelwald, a new villain that would be a counterpart to Dumbledore. And this is kind of what we get in Crimes of Grindelwald. Because while that movie had a lot of issues that I definitely need to talk about, the one thing it really did right is establishing Grindelwald's point of view. See, Dumbledore and Grindelwald are established to both be extremely powerful, extremely clever wizards. And the biggest difference between the two of them is just philosophy, literally moral viewpoints, where Dumbledore represents deontology and Grindelwald represents consequentialism. A really good, deep philosophical debate that could make both these characters extremely interesting. And in Crimes of Grindelwald, when Gellert gives his PowerPoint presentation to all the wizards in attendance that shows World War II, it is really a captivating and engaging argument. Grindelwald is trying to stop Muggles from starting another world war. There were millions of lives lost in World War I, and pretty much everyone was involved in the war.
Stayed in the army too long, apparently, I don't know.
You fought in the war?
Of course I fought in the war, everyone fought in the war.
And knowing that World War II was not only going to be on the horizon, but was going to be bigger and more deadly than that war, is extremely compelling for the point that wizards should be in charge and therefore maintain peace throughout the world. And from a purely consequentialist viewpoint, Grindelwald is probably in the moral right here. After all, more than 70 million people died in World War II. So as long as Grindelwald kills less than that many people on his rise to power, and he successfully stops World War II from happening once he has power, you could pretty easily argue that Grindelwald's plan is for the greater good. And that's supposed to be one of Grindelwald's key points throughout his rise to power. That wizarding dominance over Muggles is not meant to subjugate them, but instead for their own greater good.
It is said that I hate les noms magiques. I do not hate them. I do not. For I do not fight out of hatred.
But Fantastic Beasts 3: Secrets of Dumbledore ruins Grindelwald's character. Now the movie starts off great. Grindelwald is trying to become Supreme Mugwump of the International Confederation of Wizards in order to legitimize his war against the Muggles. Now, if Grindelwald just declared open war against the Muggles with the limited power that he had, especially since he already seems to control the German ministry, this would inevitably lead to a wizarding civil war, which is not something he wants. So by obtaining the political platform and the office of Supreme Mugwump, he then has the authority and ability to legitimize the entire war, and thereby significantly limit the amount of inter-wizarding resistance he would have to deal with. And this is great building on his character, especially building from the last time we see him in Crimes of Grindelwald. He's building his following, he's getting more popular, and he is really doing his best, seemingly, to avoid a civil war. And even his acts of violence in the beginning of this movie seem more calculated. Arguably evil thing he does in this movie, which is killing the Chillin, was done very specifically for the purpose of furthering his cause. And in a great piece of detail that deserves recognition, in the scene before Grindelwald kills the Chillin, he actually pauses and waits for the Chillin to walk around in front of him. And in the moment, we don't understand what he's doing because we don't know what this creature is. But in retrospect, it's obvious that the reason why he's waiting is because he wants to see if the Chillin bows to him, which definitely informs his character because Grindelwald genuinely thinks that he is doing the correct thing. He thinks he is acting on the side of right. But we get to the end of Fantastic Beasts 3, and Grindelwald's character is completely destroyed. See, Grindelwald gets everything that he wanted. His fake Chillin bows to him and he is appointed Supreme Mugwump. And it looks like his plan is going perfectly, but then he decides to ruin everything in doing something that's so bad, so out of character. At the end of Fantastic Beasts 3, Grindelwald tortures Jacob in front of the entire Wizarding audience. I can't explain how bad of a decision this was for his campaign. It's just horrible for his character in general. Because firstly, he says one of the reasons why he's doing this is because this person intends on marrying Queenie. As he says it, this person intends on polluting magical blood. And this comes kind of out of nowhere. And maybe this is my own fault for holding on to hope, but throughout all of Crimes of Grindelwald, Grindelwald has done a pretty good job at shying away from blood purity. He even refers to magic as blooming in special souls, as if the thing he cares about is people who are magical, apart from how they are magical. Even his relationship with Dumbledore implies that he doesn't care that much about blood purity, because Dumbledore himself is a half-blood. And yet, in this scene, he makes a big deal about the issue of diminishing wizarding blood. Which is first of all crazy, because wizarding blood is a dominant trait, and marrying muggles would only increase the size of the wizarding community. But also because this is a platform that he used to recruit Queenie to the cause.
I wish you were working with me now, towards a world where we wizards were free to live openly, to love freely.
That joining up with him would allow her to marry Jacob. And in attacking Jacob, he instantly gets rid of Queenie as an ally for seemingly no reason. And the worst part about this is making Grindelwald's key points to being blood purity puts us back in the exact same place that we were in the Harry Potter series, where all the bad guys are going to be the purebloods who are representing blood purity. It's going to be the Slytherins who are evil again. I feel like this was completely unnecessary for Grindelwald's character. Grindelwald's big issue was taking control over the Muggle world. But creating a second divide in the Wizarding world about blood purity only further divides his cause, where now not just Queenie, but any member of Grindelwald's support group who was pro-Muggle marriage or half-blood or just not pureblood in general would now be disincentivized to follow him. But it also steps directly on the point he was making at the end of Crimes of Grindelwald. It steps on his entire campaign slogan, that wizarding dominance is being done for Muggles' greater good, and yet he's torturing a defenseless Muggle for no reason, showing every single one of his followers that Grindelwald actually doesn't care about the greater good, showing everyone that his entire campaign is a lie. Which maybe is supposed to be Grindelwald's true ethos, that Grindelwald actually does just care about taking over the world, and he doesn't actually care about Muggle welfare, or the wizarding world, or being free of persecution for wizards. But if Grindelwald doesn't actually care about any of those things, it just instantly flattens his character down to making him one-dimensional. Grindelwald is evil, Dumbledore is good. Simple. Simple and boring. And the weirdest thing about both of these is he had absolutely no reason to do it. He had already captured Jacob. He had already been given the title of Supreme Mugwump. Mugwump. The only effect of what he did in this scene was to destroy his own support group, which he might have done out of anger or frustration, but even the idea that he might have done these things emotionally also informs Grindelwald's character, because if he is an emotional person who's making bad decisions in the heat of the moment, it takes away from him being a counterpart to Dumbledore, who is always extremely methodical and has deep interwoven plans. And backup plans. And backup plans. Seriously, Dumbledore is a Ravenclaw, and I don't want to hear any more about it. But Grindelwald choosing to do these things so openly, so in public, so against the overall ethos of the message that he had been trying to put out, just comes off as extremely short-sighted. Which is, of course, a ridiculous thing to call Grindelwald because he's supposed to be a seer. And it completely changes Grindelwald from being an ethically defendable character, a villain that we might be able to support and even empathize with his plight, being completely one-dimensional and honestly a lot similar to Voldemort than he needed to be. And flattening down Grindelwald's character just takes away from the complexity that we needed in order to make him an extremely interesting antagonist. And as they say, a series is only as good as its villain. So guys, I feel like you can really tell at this point that I was really disappointed with the direction they chose to take Grindelwald's character. But what did you guys think? Do you think Grindelwald is a better villain than Voldemort? Do you think he really didn't have a chance? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.